Welcome to episode 89 of the High Volume Hiring Podcast. I am Stephen Rothberg. I am one of your co-hosts, and I'm also the founder of College Recruiter Job Search Site, where we believe that every student and recent grad deserves a great career and that it should be easy and inexpensive for employers to hire them. We have a fun episode here today. I think it's going to be fun. A one-on-one with my co-host Jeanette Leeds and me, and we're going to be talking about something fairly timely, Jeanette.
Very, very timely. We have, episode 89. We're changing it up a little bit, talking about the topic at hand of federal workers and them being on the market. And is there a good place for them in the private sector? I think what's our official title today, Stephen? You had a good
Yeah.
phrase, but that's the big question.
Yeah. So just to sort of to set the stage, especially for the international, like people who watch on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Pandora, whatever. Maybe your like mother-in-law is playing it from her boombox and you're forced to listen, but wherever it is that you're listening. So Donald Trump became again president, right? January 20th. And he's done a lot of what he promised to do in the campaign trail. And that would be like massively reducing the federal workforce and also bringing in tariffs. And the combination of those two has led, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, whether you think some of it's good, all of it's bad, all of it's good, whatever. But the result has definitely been hundreds of thousands of US federal government employees having their employment terminated. Some of them involuntarily, they've been fired, and some of them voluntarily where they've quit. Some of them are getting severance, some of them aren't. Another story for another day. We wanted to talk, Jeanette, about like kind of how many people are there? And for employers that are trying to hire at scale, is this a new opportunity for them?
Absolutely. And I think that's, let's just focus on that portion of the discussion versus, as we said, all the other backdrops, which, a lot of people are just going to hide their head in the sand or whatever. So, it's interesting. We were talking beforehand as we were preparing. Like, my view is that I think there's a really great opportunity for this new talent pool, right? Which is, again, for those that are doing high volume hiring in areas like customer service, admin support, data entry, because I was looking up some of the stats beforehand.
My data-driven
I know. I
co-host.
love this. I love this stuff. And I was like, what are the facts? So
Yeah.
the facts are there are almost 500,000, certainly over 400,000 federal workers in customer facing or support oriented roles. That's a
Wow.
ton of people,
Way more than I thought.
right? Like that is so what portion of those people that now are unemployed, is it half of them? Are so many talented people who are now looking for jobs. And if you think about the other set that I looked up is like, what's the average tenure,
Yeah.
right? And so if you think of like a typical call center work or a lot of high volume roles, what we turn over, right? If we're lucky,
Measured in months.
months, right?
Yeah.
You're lucky if you're a year. So
Yeah.
the average federal worker tenure is 8.2 years,
Wow. Not job hoppers.
not job hoppers.
Therefore, a lot more productive. You
Mhm.
train one person, you got them for 8 years versus 8 people for a year each.
Right. I mean, there's a really interesting opportunity for the private sector to scoop up a lot of these talented workers who are just going to, I mean, talk about like the cost to recruit, right? And replace all this high turnover. You can just get a handful.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast that I earlier today, I think it came out yesterday, and the conversation was about the tariffs and, you know,
Yes.
good, bad. That wasn't really the point. The point was more of like what's likely to happen.
Mm.
And one of the people in the podcast was talking about the layoffs of federal government employees, the tariffs, et cetera. And he was trying to make the point that people who are like chemists, researchers, like those like highly educated federal government employees. Let's be realistic. They are not going to be installing windshields on the next car that you buy. Like, they're not going to move from
Agreed.
something like that to a manufacturing floor. But like the point that you made that you could have told me about in the green room
Yeah.
is there are 400,000 who don't fit that bill.
Yep.
And add to that, because one of our former employees, her husband, for I think something like 30 years, worked for Sodexo
Mm.
in as a chef in the Veterans Administration facilities in VA hospitals.
Oh, wow.
So if VA hospitals close or downsize or other federal offices do the same, those sorts of people who aren't federal employees are likely also to
Yeah.
be displaced. And so if you've got somebody working for, say, a Sodexo for 40 years who now loses their job, that person likely would want to go to another Sodexo facility
Right.
or Cheesecake Factory or Chipotle or whatever.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And again, I'm just as we were talking, like, think about in terms of reducing turnover, right? They like to stay. It's like
Yeah.
methodical where you are. There's just incredible stability. Um, it's a really interesting time. I mean, the other thing, it's right. We just finished up tax season in the US, right? So like tax season.
Oh, is that why the sun is shining again?
Woo! If everyone's getting some refunds. But if you think about it, like, and there was all this talk, okay, how much, and I don't know the stats on this, but what I do know is that the IRS handles 250 million taxpayer contacts a year,
Wow.
right? And so, okay, we know they're cutting, right? They're cutting people. And so,
Yeah.
again, it's like, that's a tough job, right? You're on the phone with people who are having a whole range of emotions.
Nobody wants to call the
No one
IRS.
wants to
Like,
call the IRS.
it's not like calling a hotel where maybe it's a complaint, but maybe it's
Yep.
because you're booking a vacation. When
Yeah.
you're calling the IRS, it's you've got a problem paying your taxes.
Yep.
That none of that's good.
Some problem. And again, the emotion from those callers, right? And
Yes.
so and that's always really difficult for some whether they may be angry or upset or who knows, right? And so you think of those people who are used to picking up those phone calls. They're out of a job, right? You go and
Yeah.
you put them into call center, hospitality. Talk about like being used to working with the public in a
Oh,
way.
that is fascinating. So when I think of at least some call center positions, debt collectors,
Yeah.
for example, like, again, nobody wants to talk to a debt collector.
No.
Um,
No, you
and the debt collector could be the nicest person in the world. The debt collection agency could be the most wonderful place to work and really trying hard, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, you owe a bunch of money. You're probably not paying it. And it's really an unpleasant conversation. And that's got to be a really, really hard job for
Yeah.
the person in the call center. But is it any harder than
Mm.
somebody who kind of has the same issues with a tax agent or
Right.
um, so,
Yeah.
okay. So you've worked on basically every side of the table in like talent acquisition, including on the employer side.
Including on the employer side. Yep.
Pretend that you are you know, one of the people listening to the show, senior talent acquisition leader. And it's like, huh, yeah, we have been struggling to staff our call center in Wichita, and there's a big IRS facility here, and maybe there are a bunch of these call center people there. What do you do? How do you reach
Oh,
those people?
I love that.
Are they going to be on a ZipRecruiter and Indeed, a college recruiter? Are they going to? Do you need to go and like
It's
do open
interesting.
houses? Like, what
An
would be
open
some of the things
house,
you would
career
do?
fair. You know what this reminds me of a little bit is like, a lot of organizations over the past years have started a like returnship style thing for working mothers who have left the workforce and they're returning. Um, there's something interesting about starting a program. I can almost imagine like
Oh,
a marketing campaign of a return to, and you're not returning to the private sector, but
yeah,
something to help onboard or transition into the private sector, right? Like, I
Ah,
think there's something interesting there, right? To put that out there in a variety of ways. Is it on job boards? Yes. Is it some sort of, you know, ad campaign or variety of ways? Maybe it's, there, but there's something in that marketing bent of, hey, you do have transferable skills. Like, hey, it's going to be okay, right? Because
yeah,
I think there's one part of everyone is the world right now is upside down, and
yeah.
there's a lot of emotion. So hey, it's going to be fine. So let's hope. And you have transferable skills, and hey, we can help you at my company. We want to hire you here, and just almost, you know, have some sort of onboarding return or
I love it.
something
I
transition track. No, we have to play with the words. That's what I would
Yeah,
recommend.
I love it. I could see, um, uh, again, just using the example of a call center,
Yeah,
because of like the 400,000 customer facing roles that you're talking about. Not to be clear, right? Not all 400,000 of those people are going to lose their jobs, right? It
correct.
could
That's
be
not what we're
half.
saying. Could
It
be.
could be half.
We don't know. Yeah.
And that's just one example. There are going to be people in other areas. And again, like I was saying before, too, like some of the vendors and other, organizations that sort of have spin-off
Yeah.
effects too. So I could see an organization that has a big call center, um, struggling to staff, um, sponsoring like job search workshops for
Mm,
newly displaced federal government agencies, right? So you rent out a room in the local library,
yeah.
and maybe you bring in a guest speaker, a career fair coach. There are plenty of really good ones around. Most of them don't charge an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
You can probably get the room for free at the library. Maybe a couple $100 for the career coach for an hour or two to teach them like
I
what's
love
a
that.
job board, how do you apply online, what's an ATS, how do you write your resume with corporate speak, not government speak.
Yes.
And oh, by the way, thank you to XYZ Corporation for sponsoring this, right? And Cindy's over at the table there. So if you're interested in working for, Allstate or whatever, hit up Cindy after the session.
I love that. And I think the in-person piece is really key
Yeah.
because it's not just about doing things online. Like there is this need to connect in person. And I'm sure there will be some concern again. Okay, I've been working for the federal government for all these years. This is what I know. I know the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't know anything about these other companies. There's this fear, and hey, here's Cindy. I think you said it right. Like let me put a face with the name, right? And so
Yeah.
there's something there. And hey, Cindy can just go ahead and hire right on the spot.
Yeah. And I think it'd be in my mind, an environment like that is much less intimidating
Agreed.
to the potential employee than having to walk into your corporate headquarters.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and they're already stressed enough. We don't have to
Mhm.
add more.
Absolutely.
Um, I could definitely see, a room of 200 people.
Yeah.
75 of them go up to Cindy afterwards and talk to her, and she points them, tells them like, here's where our jobs are. Go search our, careers.xyzcorp.com or
Absolutely.
whatever. And of the 75, maybe 20 apply and maybe 10 get hired. Those wouldn't be such bad metrics
It's
for a few
not bad
hours.
stats. Not bad at all. Not bad at
Yeah.
all.
And so you're going to organize one of these tomorrow at 4.
Exactly. Tomorrow at 4 at the local library, we're gonna get everyone up and running, and they'll all have new jobs in, 2 hours, done.
Cool. Yeah.
Solved all the world's
Um,
problems.
Love it. Anything you want to add? I realize
Oh, we're at time. We
we're
always
at
run
time. That
we're
just
always
like I,
we
I was
always
thinking that we couldn't have been talking for more than 3 minutes.
exactly. Well,
Yeah.
that always happens. Well, I think in the end, comes down to everyone just needs to think in different ways.
Yeah.
That's where, life is. Think look at things from different angles, and, there's always some silver linings. So,
Yeah. No, I love that.
make
And
new
and
talent cool.
I'll echo that and I'll add to that. We need to think in different ways when we're hiring these people because they are different. Their
Mhm.
backgrounds are different. They're not the typical, they don't have the same career path that you might be used to having hired.
Yes.
And let's meet them in the middle.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
it.
Cool. Well, awesome.
Until next time.
Yes. Next time is episode 90, but we have to wait 2 weeks for that.
Ooh, a couple weeks till 90. We're getting close to 100. They'll have to have a big celebration for that.
Birthday cake.
Love it.
Cheers. Cheers, Jeanette.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.